The loudest person is not always the most powerful one. The one who gets heard the most is the one who knows how to speak at the right time in the right way. Have you ever found yourself talking, but no one is really listening? Trying to explain, but the more you talk, the more they tune you out. You have something important to share, but your voice just disappears in the noise of the crowd. And then you ask yourself, maybe my voice does not matter. That is not true. You do matter. You just have not learned how to give your voice gravity. In a room full of noise, the leader is the one who makes the entire room fall silent with just one sentence. They do not talk a lot. They do not talk for long. They just speak right. Here is the truth. You do not need to speak beautifully. You need to speak so people will listen. You do not need big words. You need strong ones. You do not need to shout. You need to make people want to hear what you say. Your voice is not just sound. It is presence. It is energy. It is what earns you respect. Not because you raise your volume, but because your words carry weight. This is not a skill just for CEOs or politicians. It is for you, someone who lives, works, communicates every day, and is being overlooked because of how you speak. If you are tired of being interrupted, if you are used to blank stares every time you try to share something, if you feel like your voice has never made anyone stop and listen, then this video is for you. I am going to show you how to speak like a leader. No theory, no fluff, just real principles, so that when you speak one sentence, it changes the entire conversation. Not everyone speaks like a leader, but anyone can learn how to make their voice worth listening to. Chapter 1. Do not talk just to fill the gap. Are you aware you are doing this? You say one sentence, then you fear the silence lingers too long, so you keep rambling. You speak hastily. You speak aimlessly, just so no one notices you hesitate, just to fill the gap that has appeared in the room, just to avoid the feeling of being left out. But that very behavior actually weakens you. Someone who lacks confidence usually fears silence. They think silence is failure. They think if they do not fill it with words, others will judge them. But the truth is, silence does not weaken you. Silence, when timed correctly, is strength. Do you know what makes a spoken word truly valuable? It is the silence before and after it. Just like in a piece of music, without rest, all the sounds become chaos. Your voice works the same way. If you always try to speak, always fill the space, each sentence loses weight. Let me ask you this. Have you ever sat in a meeting listening to someone go on and on, speaking non-stop? No one can interrupt. At first you may listen, but after a few minutes, you start counting the seconds until they finish. Now imagine someone walks in slowly. They say exactly one sentence, clear, concise, then silence. The entire room pays attention because their silence is intentional and their words carry weight. Silence with purpose is how a leader controls a space. They do not need to occupy the room with sound. They take the focus with presence, and that presence comes from inner stability. Someone calm inside does not need words to prove anything. They know speaking does not guarantee being heard. Sometimes, the person who speaks the most is the one who feels the most insecure, and the one who speaks the least is the one who has overcome the need for validation. Silence is when you no longer depend on others' attention. It is when you know true attention does not come from noise. It comes from the gravity in each moment you choose to speak. You may be thinking, what if I stay silent and others will dominate the conversation? No. If you stay silent with steadiness, they will sense it. If you choose silence intentionally, no one dares to underestimate you. But if you pause out of fear, others will take over the space you leave. The difference lies in the inner strength behind the silence. There is one kind of silence that makes a room uncomfortable because it feels awkward. But there is another kind that makes people hold their breath in anticipation. Which one do you want to be? A skilled speaker is not someone who speaks continuously. It is someone who knows when to stop, who understands the silence after a powerful sentence is where its depth resides. The more you fear the void, the more you reveal restlessness to others. The more you dare to create space, the more you show you control this room. Many think if I stop talking, someone will jump in. And indeed, people will interject if you leave silence out of fear. But if you create silence with confidence, they will pause to listen. A steady gaze, a definite nod, a breathing beat with purpose. That is enough to make the room go silent, waiting for you to continue. Look at truly influential people. They are not hurried. They do not need to speak fast to hold attention. They speak, then pause. They let silence deliver the rest of the message. This is not unnaturalness. It is the art of controlling the atmosphere using the natural rhythm of speech. From now on, treat silence as an ally, not an enemy. You do not need to fill it. You need to make it part of your style. When you speak, then pause. Listeners get drawn in. They think the next sentence must be important. They go quiet. And when you speak again, they remember. How do you practice this? Start by not fearing silence. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. Say one sentence, then pause for 2 seconds, then speak again, and pause for 3 seconds. At first that might feel odd, but then you will find it like practicing breathing for a deeper conversation. You do not need to become a public speaker. You do not need to learn hundreds of communication techniques. Just master one thing first. Dare to stop, dare to be silent, dare to make others wait. Because the person who truly has power in the room is not the one who speaks continuously, but the one calm enough to make all eyes turn to them, even when people are silent. A person who talks just to fill voids. A leader speaks to create space. They do not rush to fill silence. They know silence is when listeners absorb. It is when meaning sinks into the mind. Silence is not scary. It is your lack of confidence in facing it that is scary. If you realize you speak because of fear, speak because you do not know what to do with the gap, then that is when you need to stop. Take a deep breath. Look into the eyes of whoever is across from you and say nothing. Let the silence do the rest. You will see something magical. People hear you more clearly after every pause. They sense confidence in your choice not to fill with sound. That is what a leader does. Not speak more, but know when to speak. When you speak continuously, people stop listening. When you know silence, people begin to await each sentence you deliver. That is the difference. Do not use words as a blanket over your nervousness. Use them like a sharp cut to silence, only when necessary. When you dare to let silence exist, you show you control it, not that it controls you. You do not need to talk all the time. You need to make each time you speak significant. Someone who talks nonstop is often someone afraid of being left out. Someone who dares to stop understands the value of presence. If you are trying to speak too much to fill up, just so no one sees you are struggling, stop, because that is exactly what makes you be underestimated. You do not need to rush to prove anything. You just need to be steady enough to choose the moment you speak, and silence is a powerful choice too. Silence at the right moment carries more weight than a long speech. Next time you prepare to speak, slow down. Pause for 1 second, just 1 second, then speak. Do not rush to fill. Let the silence prove the stability within you. Chapter 2. Stop asking for permission to be heard. You do not need to ask for permission to be heard. You do not need to start with, "I am sorry to bother you. I just want to say a quick thing. I am not good at speaking, but..." Sound familiar? That is because you have said those things so many times. And chances are, every time it felt like you were shrinking yourself a little more. Why do you do that? Because you are afraid. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of not being good enough. Afraid of sounding out of place in a room full of bold voices. You use hesitant openings, like a shield to cover your insecurities. But the truth is, that very shield is what makes you small. No one is pushing you down. You are doing it to yourself with the way you begin your words. Do not start with an apology when you have done nothing wrong. Do not say, "I am not sure." If you have been thinking about it all night, do not say, "I am not great at this," if you have something worth sharing. Because when you say something like, "It does not matter," people will believe it really does not matter. Look at the people you respect. Do they begin with hesitation? Do they ask for permission for every word? Or do they speak with clarity, with certainty, and without excuses? Here is the truth. Certainty does not always come from knowledge. It comes from how you choose to open your mouth. You want people to respect you. Then stop asking to be heard. Start assuming your words are worth hearing, because that assumption brings a completely different energy into your voice. I just want to say, "I am not so sure, but everyone here is better than me," but that is not humility. That is self-doubt in disguise. You do not need to shrink yourself so others can stand taller. You do not need to step back so others have room. Your presence does not take away anyone else's space. But I know you still hesitate because for so many years, you were taught to be polite, humble, not a bother. You walk into a meeting and your eyes go down, not up. You read the room before you read your own thoughts. You wait for someone's nod before you dare to speak. But that behavior makes you sound like you are asking for permission just to exist. Do you know why many people are not heard in important meetings? It is not because they are less smart, not because they say the wrong thing. It is because they do not believe in themselves. From the very first word, they wrap their voice in a soft shell, and just like that, no one cares what comes after. The more you undervalue your own voice, the more others will do the same. Remember this like an unspoken law of life. The energy you carry into your voice is the frequency the world responds to. If you always begin with an apology, people will always see you as someone apologizing just for being present. You deserve to show up clearly, without lowering your head. You deserve to be heard, without disclaimers. Because no one respects someone who does not respect their own words. I once met a young woman, smart, capable, but in every meeting her first words were always, "I am not sure if this is right. Maybe I misunderstood, but..." And you know what? No one remembered what she said. They only remembered the foggy, uncertain feeling her words left behind. Then one day she changed. She did not take a class. She did not become a public speaker. She simply stopped starting her sentences with apologies. Instead of "I am not sure," she said, "Based on this data, I suggest," instead of "I just think maybe," She said, I believe this approach is more effective because, can you guess what happened? The whole team started, pausing to listen. She was no longer the one who nodded with the crowd. She became the one who guided the conversation. See, you do not need to be better. You just need to be more certain. And that certainty does not come from your knowledge. It comes from how you bring your words into the room. People do not remember every word you say. They remember how it felt when you said it. And that feeling is created in the first few seconds. So if you begin with a disclaimer, you are giving people permission to lower their expectations before you even begin. Imagine stepping onto a stage, and your first words are, I am not used to speaking in front of a crowd. The audience immediately thinks this person is not confident. You might say something brilliant afterward, but the impact is already cut in half. Instead, say I have a story, and it will change the way you think about persistence. Change your opening, and you change the whole game. You have the right to begin as someone worth hearing. You do not need anyone's nod. You do not need to check who agrees. Speak with conviction, and you will earn the room's attention. Remember this, if you do not believe in what you say, no one has a reason to believe it for you. People do not just hear your words. They hear the energy behind every word. And if you begin with hesitation, then no matter how good the rest is, it will already sound weaker. Do not dull your voice just because you have not yet learned how to shine without feeling awkward. Words have power, but the way you bring them out is what makes them heard. You do not need to speak louder. You need to speak with more certainty. You do not need to mimic someone else's tone. Just be decisive with your own. Instead of I just think maybe, say I believe. Instead of I do not know if this is okay, say here is my proposal. Just change a few words, and you will see your entire presence shift. You do not need to make others uncomfortable to be heard. You just need to stop weakening yourself from the first sentence. Your first energy sets the tone for everything. If you speak like someone asking for permission, people will let you speak, then move on. But if you speak like someone worth stopping for, people will stop. Maybe you have heard be humble, but humility does not mean lowering yourself. Humility means standing firm without forcing it. The truth is, you do not need permission. You only need to give yourself permission to speak clearly. Stop checking people's faces before you talk. Stop worrying if they are annoyed. Stop shrugging and laughing it off to ease the pressure in your voice. You are not here to be pleasant for everyone else. You are here to raise a voice that deserves to be heard. And if you do not feel confident yet, then remember this. Confidence does not come first, it comes after. After you choose to speak with certainty, every time you speak with conviction, you lay another brick of self-trust. Every time you stop asking for permission, you strengthen your place in that room. Your words carry no weight if you do not believe in them. Your words will not be heard if you deliver them like you're asking someone to approve. Do not ask. Do not shrink. Start like someone who knows I have something worth saying. You do not need permission to be respected. You need words that carry weight. Starting today, practice the way you begin. Write down the 3 opening lines you use the most. Then cross out anything like, I am sorry, I am not sure, I am not good at this, but, and replace them with I believe, I propose, I want to say this clearly. Try it, and watch how people start looking at you differently. Chapter 3, Your voice is a quiet form of power. You do not need to be loud to be heard. You just need to speak with a spine in your voice. There are people who, The moment they speak, the entire room stops. They do not have to yell. They do not have to command. They speak directly, and you have no choice but to listen. The reason is not volume. It is not their credentials. It is not their job title. It is rhythm, pacing, tone, and silence. Have you ever noticed? The less confident someone is, the faster they talk. They speak nonstop, as if they are afraid that if they pause for even 1 second, someone will interrupt. But that very behavior makes them more interruptible, easier to overlook, easier to forget. A true leader is never in a rush. They speak slowly, not out of laziness, but because they control the space around them with their voice. They are not swept up by the pace of the crowd. They make the crowd slow down to hear them. Your voice is the first signal that shows, are you centered inside? Do you believe in yourself? Do you think you are worth hearing? A shaky voice, a rush voice, a scattered voice will strip the power from even your strongest message. You might be right. You might have evidence. You might make perfect sense. But if your voice lacks backbone, people still will not believe you. Your voice is your presence. It is your emotion refined. It is your attitude expressed without explanation. The person who talks the most is not always the most influential, but the one who uses their voice skillfully always holds quiet power. Picture this. Someone stands in a meeting room. Their voice is flat with no emphasis, no pause, no rhythm. You hear them, but your brain tunes out because your mind skips over voices that have no weight. Then someone else begins speaking. They go a bit slower. They pause. They emphasize the right words. And suddenly, or the whole room becomes more focused. Tone and pacing. They are a speaker's secret weapons. They turn words from information into emotion, into direction, into motivation. You do not need to sound like a professional speaker. You just need to know when to pause. Pause to create anticipation. Break to stir emotion. Emphasize to add weight. A compelling speaker is not powerful because they know more. They are powerful because they create rhythm in their words. A short sentence, a pause, a point of emphasis, like hitting a drum beat right in the listener's heart. Have you ever listened to someone and felt like you were hypnotized? They spoke slowly, steadily, with intentional pauses. You almost listened with your whole body, not just your ears. That is how they control the room, with their voice. No need to speak loudly, no need to speak often, no need to sound like a performer. Just speak with full presence in every sentence. Someone who speaks well does not drain you. They make you want to keep listening because every sentence feels meaningful, feels carefully chosen, feels like it carries a part of who they are. To reach that level, you need to practice speaking with awareness. Do not speak just to speak. Speak as if you are responsible for every word. Every word you say is an arrow. Do not shoot aimlessly. Aim, then release. Someone with little inner strength speaks to fill the silence. Someone with presence speaks to create it. You do not need to fill the room with noise. You need to quiet the room so they lean in to hear. Try saying something you say every day, introducing yourself, sharing an idea, or something simple like, I think we should do it this way. Then play it back. Is your voice rushed? Is it scattered? Is it trembling? Does it sound like persuasion or like asking for permission? You will be surprised at how your own voice might be betraying the image you are trying to project. Learn from stage performers. They know how to pause, how to lower their tone, how to stay silent, and let the audience finish the story in their own heads. Because a pause is an invitation for the listener to step into your world. And here is something interesting. People who speak with rhythm are less likely to be interrupted because they create an atmosphere of seriousness. Others do not dare to cut in, afraid they will break the flow. You do not need to raise your voice to hold the floor. You just need rhythm that makes people step back willingly. There are people who silence a room when they speak, not because they command it, but because they make you feel if you do not listen, you might miss something important. You can train that every day starting now. You do not need a coach. You just need to observe yourself when you speak. Practice speaking with feeling. Practice stressing the key words. Practice pausing after thoughts that deserve reflection. Practice changing rhythm so your voice never becomes background noise. You are not just talking, you are leading people's emotions with your voice. A leader does not need to speak for long. They just need to speak right and create the feeling this is someone worth listening to. And that does not come from content. It comes from the rhythm of the voice. Your voice does not have to be beautiful. It needs structure. It needs a spine. It needs rhythm. You can train this. It does not require talent, just intentional practice. Practice slowing down. Practice pausing after important lines. Practice listening to your own voice. Ask yourself, am I inspiring or just pushing sound? A voice with a spine does not follow fear. It speaks each word as if it matters, because to that speaker, every word does. Try this record yourself, just a short clip, then play it back like a stranger would. You will hear it. Does your voice carry certainty or just noise from someone trying to get it over with? A voice with a spine is a voice that does not apologize for existing, does not speed up just to hold attention, does not tremble when it matters most. It is the kind of voice people listen to, even when no one forces them to. You want to lead? Then your voice must lead first. It must be the soundtrack that makes others stop and follow. If your voice has no rhythm, no pauses, no emphasis, listeners will receive only data. But if it does, they will feel you. And sometimes what changes someone's decision is not the reason you give. It is the way you deliver that reason. A leader does not need to speak often. They need to speak in a way that earns trust. And that does not come from the words. It comes from the structure within the voice. From today forward, do not just train what you say. Train how you say it. Give your voice a spine. A voice does not need to be loud. It needs a backbone. Right after this video, practice saying one simple line. My opinion is, say it slowly, say it clearly, say it with certainty, hit the right rhythm, then pause. Feel the difference. Chapter 4. Choose your words like you choose a weapon. Main point, leaders do not use flowery language. They use sharp, precise, and concise words. Every sentence is a command for action. Final takeaway, the fewer the words, the greater the power. Some people speak for 10 minutes, and no one remembers anything. Others say one sentence and shift the entire room. What makes the difference? Words. It is not about how much you say. It is about which words you choose. Words are weapons. Use the wrong ones and you cut yourself. Use the right ones and you lead influence and move hearts. Are you speaking or wearing people out? Are you explaining or lost in a maze of your own words? The more you add, the fuzzier the message becomes. The longer you talk, the more impact you lose. The harder you try to be understood, the more confused your listener gets. Leaders speak so others take action. They do not speak to sound good. They do not use complicated words no one understands. They choose words that are clear, simple, and powerful. Do not say we should consider the possible future scenarios to determine an option that fits the current context. Say this instead: we go with option A because it is faster and carries less risk. Short, clear, strong. Do not speak to impress, speak to activate. A true leader does not need to show off with big words. They deliver the core message with words that are easy to remember, easy to understand, and easy to follow. The shorter your words, the deeper your message. The clearer your language, the stronger the trust. Picture yourself as a mirror. The person in front of you sees themselves through the clarity of your words. Every word is a bullet. Do not fire randomly. Fire with precision, using words that are sharp, clean, and exact. Look back at messages you have sent, posts you have written, or speeches you have given. Have you said 10 sentences when 2 would do? Have you added fluff to cover your uncertainty? Are you using pretty words because you are afraid the real ones will be judged? Fancy words earn compliments. Clear words earn trust and follow through. So what do you choose? When you say to be honest, as I mentioned earlier, this might potentially lead to a possibility. You sound like you are driving without holding the wheel. Say instead, I recommend, we need to act now. The best solution right now is each word points a finger, direct, confident, no wandering. You do not need to say more. You need to say deeper. Because sharpness is not about how long you speak. It is about how precise you are. People who speak with weight know exactly what they want. They do not speak to fill space. They speak like they are commanding the universe. This is what I choose. This is where I am going. This is what I will not accept. But do you know why many people avoid decisive language? Because they are afraid of disagreement, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid to be wrong, so they soften everything with vague words. They think if I speak too strongly, people might not like me. If I am too clear, they will think I am controlling. So what happens? They weaken their own voice with words that soothe, blur, and hesitate. But you cannot lead if you are not willing to be clear. Vagueness gets you nowhere. Worse, it leaves everyone else stuck too. People do not follow the unsure. They follow the ones who know what they are saying. If you often say it depends on the situation, I think so, but not entirely sure. Maybe we let everyone decide. Then remember this: the words you choose will shape the presence you carry. And if your presence is timid, you will never be seen as a leader. Do not confuse softness with vagueness. A soft person still has boundaries. A vague person does not even know where they stand. Words are how you draw the map. A leader draws it clearly. We go this way. I take responsibility. This is the goal. Someone uncertain. They draw blurred paths with no direction and no outcome. The world does not need more people who speak beautifully. It needs people who speak to create change. And you can only do that when you wield your words like a blade. A friend once told me I tend to use softer words because I do not want to hurt anyone. I asked, but if your softness causes people to misunderstand you, is that not harm too? You see, lack of clarity can also cause damage. Even silent damage, because people do not realize they are being misled. Sometimes the kindest sentence is the clearest one. It leaves no room for confusion, no false hope, no guessing games. The clearer you are, the safer people feel. They know what you think. They know what you want. They know whether you believe in yourself. And all of that comes from the words you choose. Now picture a simple moment. You want to decline an invitation. You could say I have been really busy, not sure if I can make it. Sounds polite, but it leaves the other person unsure. Should they wait for you or find someone else? Do you want to go or are you making excuses? Now say thank you for the invitation, but I will have to decline. Shorter, clearer, more respectful. Clarity is not harshness. Clarity keeps relationships clean, and you can do it with your words. You do not need more words. You just need to cut the unnecessary ones. The fewer your words, the more attention you gain. The tighter your message, the more impact you make. The sharper your language, the more people stop and listen. From today, review every sentence you say. Are there words that repeat without meaning? Are there words you use just to fill silence? Are there words you use out of fear, not because they are needed? If so, cut them, tighten them, clean your voice. Look at phrases you often use. Probably, I think maybe, I am not sure if this is right. It could be. These words take the spine out of your voice, like swinging a sword with no force. Now here are words with backbone. I recommend, I choose, I decline, I commit. Short, clear, backed by responsibility. A leader does not need 1,000 words to say what could be said in 10. Because they know the shorter the message, the longer it stays. The clearer the message, the faster people move. Words are not decoration. Words are tools you use to unlock someone else's will. There are sentences you hear once and remember forever because they are not just true, they are sharp. If not now, then when no one is coming to save you, you have to save yourself. No clarity, no action. These sentences do not need to be repeated. They carve themselves into memory because they are short and strong. Starting today, do not use words to hide. Use them to command. Command yourself to act. Command others to understand. Command every bit of vagueness to stop. The fewer the words, the greater the power. Pick a recent conversation and rewrite it. Cut every word that adds no value. Replace the rest with stronger ones. Read it again. Feel the shift in the weight of your voice. Chapter 5, cut the UMS. Boost your credibility by 200%. You might be saying smart, insightful things, but just one word, and suddenly your message starts to lose value. You may not notice it, but your listeners do. They hear hesitation, uncertainty, a lack of control. And in a world where the strong are heard, the ones who lack control get pushed aside. These are not just filler sounds. They are loud signals that you have not yet mastered your own voice. And if you cannot control your voice, you will never truly earn others' respect. You might think it is just a slip of the tongue, but one makes you seem unprepared. 2 ums make you sound unsure. 3 filler words and your message floats away like smoke. Every filler word is a crack in your credibility, and you cannot inspire anyone when your voice is breaking apart. Leaders do not talk to fill the silence. They let the silence serve their message. A well-timed pause is the highest form of control. You stop, you take a breath, you think. Then you speak with rhythm, with weight, with purpose. Do not think you have to talk non-stop to keep people listening. Presence is not measured by the number of words. It is measured by the quality of every moment you speak. Next time you feel an coming, do this. Pause. Do not fear the silence. Let silence work for you. Silence does not make you weak, it makes you strong. When you cut your voice becomes more certain. When you cut people start to focus. When you cut the whole room begins to listen. Because now they are not just hearing you, they are feeling your confidence. Someone who says, between every sentence is thinking while they talk. Someone who speaks clearly and directly already thought before opening their mouth. And in communication, that is the difference between leading and following. You do not need to speak fast to sound smart. You need to speak with conviction so people know you believe what you say. Every word you say should be a brick that builds trust, not a pebble tossed into the wind. And if you are wondering, can I actually break this habit? The answer is absolutely, but you have to start now, not when you are on stage, not when you are in a meeting with your boss, not right before a big presentation. Start today. Start in everyday conversations. Even when you are ordering food or chatting with a friend, that is when you build the voice of someone worth listening to. And here is something to remember. Leaders do not mumble. They speak with rhythm and strength. Starting now, train yourself to notice every time you're about to say, Instead of letting it slip out, pause, breathe, then continue. No filler, no cover-ups, no panic. The more silence you can hold, the more weight your words carry. Start today. Cut the and boost your credibility. Cut the and amplify your presence. Cut the and increase your authority. Every filler word you remove is one step forward. One less filler, one more sign of leadership. Now think back to the last time you heard someone speak and constantly say, was it frustrating? Did you want to keep listening? Maybe you did not notice it consciously, but your body felt it impatience and a loss of trust because it sounded like they were figuring it out as they went. And that made you think this person is not ready. This person is not solid. Leaders do not talk to think. They think before they talk. They do not open their mouth unless they are clear about what they are going to say. They do not let their voice wander around in uncertainty. If you are building confidence, here is your most powerful first step. Control the words that come out of your mouth. Do not let your voice broadcast hesitation. Let it radiate composure, clarity, and conviction. Because filler words do not just make you sound weak, they make you sound forgettable. When you say, I think maybe we could you sound like everyone else. But when you say, I believe we should take the step, and here is why, you become someone people notice. One of the fastest ways to stand out is to speak less, but speak with certainty. And to do that, you need to cut the habit at the root, eliminate filler words entirely. Do not underestimate this, because this is not just about fixing your speech. It is how you train yourself to think with clarity. People who do not say usually think clearly and deeply. People who say are often still sorting out their thoughts. And if you are working in a professional environment where time is money, where sharp thinking is power, you have no room for wasted words. Filler words waste time. They test patience. They drain meaning from the entire conversation. It does not matter what field you are in. It does not matter if you are a manager or just starting out. Your voice does not show your job title, but it does show whether you deserve to be heard. Want to be influential? Start with how you answer the most basic questions. An average person, I think, maybe, let me check. A leader, yes, I will review it and get back to you by 3 o'clock. Different tone, different energy, different weight. So how do you cut the fillers? Here are 3 simple but powerful exercises. 1. Record yourself when speaking. Try recording yourself explaining an idea, making a point, or sharing a thought. Then listen back. You will be shocked how often you say, but you will also hear where you sound strong and where you do not. Record, review, refine. That is how great speakers train. 2. Practice speaking slowly, but not lazily. Speaking slowly does not mean dragging things out. It means pausing with purpose. It means breathing with intent. It means giving your words room to land. That space is what keeps filler words from slipping in. 3. Practice bullet point thinking. Before you speak quickly, line it up in your head. What do I want to say? What is the point of this sentence? Can I say it more simply? Clear thinking, clear speaking, clear speaking. No need to fill the gaps. And just like that, you remove the filler without force. No one is born a powerful speaker, but anyone can train to become one. Every word you remove is one step closer to speaking like a leader. Can you see it now? Even a tiny changes the way people feel about you. Do not let something so small drag down your credibility. Filler words are quiet saboteurs. And if you are serious about standing out, must be bold enough to cut them out. Chapter 6, ask questions instead of arguing. You do not have to be right all the time to lead. In fact, the more you try to prove you are right, the more you make others feel they are wrong. And no one likes that feeling. People do not like being cornered. They do not like being contradicted. They do not like being made to feel small. So every time you fight to win the argument, you might be losing their trust. People might nod on the outside, but inside they are shutting down. They stop listening. They start preparing their defense. That is when a conversation turns into a confrontation. You do not need to raise your voice to prove your point. You need to lower it to elevate the conversation. And the most effective way to do that is ask. When you ask, you create space. When you ask, you invite others into your thinking. When you ask, you give people a chance to discover something for themselves. And something powerful happens when someone realizes the truth, not because you pointed it out, but because they saw it on their own. In communication, there are two kinds of power: the power of a good speaker and the power of someone who makes others think. A good speaker might get attention, but the one who sparks thought that person leaves a lasting impact. And if you pay attention, you will notice the most influential people are not the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who ask the right questions. Ask not to trap. Ask to expand perspective. Ask to move from confrontation to conversation. A single well-placed question can ease tension in a heated meeting. A sharp question can pull anger back to reason. A simple question can break down walls built over years. That is not just a soft skill, it is a silent weapon of leadership. But use it carefully. Not every question works. Not every question earns trust. Questions must be timed. They must be delivered the right way. They must carry the right tone. Ask with respect, not sarcasm. Ask with curiosity, not judgment. Ask to understand, not to manipulate. Because if you ask to make someone lose, they will never answer with the truth. But if you ask sincerely, they will respond with honesty. And when truth emerges, change becomes possible. All you need to do is help someone see things for themselves. That does not come from arguing, not from shouting louder, talking faster, or crafting better rebuttals. It comes from a question. One question at the right time can do what 100 arguments cannot. The insecure fight to prove they are right. The strong make others question themselves. And you do that by asking really good questions. Not questions to check a box, not questions to attack, but questions that guide thought. Ask to open perspectives. Ask so others hear their own thoughts more clearly. Ask to lift the conversation, never to trap it. Arguing is about winning. Asking is about changing. If all you want is to win, then argue well. But if you want to influence, you need to learn to ask well, because people will not remember what you said. They will remember how they felt when they discovered something for themselves. A leader does not try to beat another person's idea. They open the door to a new one. They plant the seed of a new point of view. They do it without attacking. They do it with curiosity, intentional curiosity, smart curiosity. When you argue, people put up walls. When you ask the right question, people open up. So what do you choose, a wall or a doorway? One timely question can change the direction of an entire meeting. One simple question can dissolve years of conflict. One thoughtful question can turn an opponent into a partner. That is real power, not loud but deep, not forceful but transformative. And here is something to always remember: whoever controls the questions controls the conversation. Because that person controls the flow of thought. They guide the emotional energy. They create the space for others to change without feeling threatened. So how do you ask better questions? Before you challenge, ask, why do you think that? Before you dismiss, ask, is there another way we could look at this? Before you defend your view, ask, what am I really trying to prove here? These questions are not weak. They are the foundation of strength. They show you can manage your emotions. They show you are secure enough not to always be right. You do not need to shout to be heard. You just need to ask so others begin to hear themselves. And that moment is when your influence begins. A great debater might win an argument, but a great questioner can change a mindset. Being right might silence someone, but a good question will echo in their thoughts long after. So do not waste time trying to be right. Use questions to lead. That is how you do not just win today, but earn the right to walk with them tomorrow. Call to action. From now on, pause every time you feel the urge to argue, and instead ask. Ask genuinely, ask deeply, ask with intention. You do not need to win, you need to influence. And influence does not come from the loudest voice. It comes from the question that makes people stop and think. Remember this. Whoever controls the question controls the conversation. Chapter 7, look straight, but no need to intimidate. Have you ever met someone like this? They walk into a room, speak no word, show no sign, yet the whole room falls quiet, not out of fear, but because their presence carries weight. They do not need to shout. They do not need to raise an eyebrow or clench a fist. They simply stand there looking straight, and everyone understands this person does not have to threaten, but no one dares dismiss them. Communication is not just what you say. Sometimes the most powerful thing is the gaze. A look can convey more than a speech. A posture can claim a room without a single word. A silent presence can demand seriousness. You do not need to yell for people to listen. You do not need to act tough for people to respect you. You only need to look steady, stand firm, be fully present. You can train your voice. You can learn presentation skills. You can memorize dozens of communication techniques. But if your eyes lack steadiness, people still will not see you as trustworthy. Because eyes are the first thing people look at to decide whether to listen. When you step into a room, people scan you from head to toe, but they pause at your eyes. What do your eyes say? Are they seeking approval? Are they avoiding others' gaze? Or are they standing still, ready, calm, and grounded? Just in those first few seconds, your eyes send a clearer message than any introduction. And people decide should they take you seriously or continue with casual indifference. Should they show respect or keep it civil? It all starts from the eyes. A person with authority does not glance to control. They look straight for long enough with enough firmness, and others adjust themselves. It is not an oppressive gaze. It is a gaze that does not waver. Some people, when you look into their eyes, you feel the need to straighten your posture. No one told you, but you sense you should stand up straighter. That is silent power. And the beauty of it, it is not innate. It is trained through awareness, through emotional mastery. through presence in each moment, through the choice not to flinch in your gaze no matter who stands across from you. You can train this daily anywhere. When you pass a stranger, do not look down. When you begin a conversation, hold eye contact for 3 seconds longer. When someone shares, don't dart your eyes away looking for reactions. Just stay, listen with your eyes, communicate by being present. Day by day, you will notice the difference, not in yourself, but in how others begin to actually listen to you. Presence is built from true attendance. You cannot fake presence. Your body may stand there, but if your gaze is elsewhere, people will know. They will feel you are not really there, and they will not stay in the conversation with you. Communication is an energy exchange. Your level of presence dictates how much others reciprocate. A skilled speaker does not necessarily command respect, but someone who truly shows up will earn it, because energy never lies. All it takes is your eyes being fully present, and you shift the room's atmosphere. Do not underestimate the power of a focused look. A well-placed glance can replace a long feedback loop. A calm look can replace giving advice. A direct gaze can replace proving yourself. Because you do not need to say anything when people already see who you are through the way you look at them. When you enter a room, people have not heard you yet, but they have sensed whether you are really there. And they feel that in your eyes. That is why top-tier leaders never rush. They move slowly, they look slower. They do not speak much, but they are fully present. And that presence alone makes people silent and listen. You can become that person too. No title needed, no authority needed, no loud display needed. Just let your gaze carry weight. Just don't shy away from connection and communication. Just be present with awareness, and others will sense the credibility you carry. A leader's look does not oppress, but does not avoid. Not cold, but not vague. Not threatening, but responsible. People rarely remember what you said, but they remember how it felt when you looked at them. A steady, attentive, genuine gaze compels others to sit up straighter. A resolute, unwavering gaze causes others to align themselves. Presence does not rise from sound. It rises from the energy you project before you speak. And that energy travels strongest through your eyes. Want that kind of gaze? No acting needed. Just do not avoid eye contact when communicating. Look at others with real interest. Hold the gaze in silence without trembling or rushing. In every meeting, every conversation, you can choose to be the one who speaks the most or to be the one who others listen to the most. And often it is the one who says nothing at all, just looking. The gaze of someone who is centered is, I am here. I do not need to prove it, but I will not back down. And you know what? People with true presence usually carry themselves gently because they don't need to show off. Their silence is already a statement. When you walk into a room, let your step have purpose. Let your gaze have direction. Let your face convey clarity. Not sternness, not intimidation, but I am here and solid enough to lead. Do not just learn how to speak with weight. Learn how to look with weight. Don't just practice heavy words. Train a gaze that holds gravity. Because in the end, what people remember about you is not just what you said, but how it felt when you looked at them. Starting today, pay attention to your gaze. When you talk, do not look away. When you listen, do not look down. When you walk into a room, do not just lower your head quietly. Look straight, be present, show up. And then you will see some people walk into a room and the entire room changes. Chapter 8, you don't need to prove, make people want to listen. Have you ever seen someone walk onto a stage and spend the first 5 minutes listing their accomplishments? Successful, wealthy, high status, impressive titles. Yet the audience stays closed off. Because accomplishments alone do not make people believe you. In fact, the more you try to prove yourself, the more they doubt you. A true leader does not force others to listen. They create an atmosphere where people want to listen. You do not need to act like a leader. You don't need to show off what you know. Instead of recounting achievements, tell a story. A real story. A time you failed. A time you learned something from life. Something small but honest. Because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with sincerity. Want people to listen to you? Start by not needing to be heard. Meaning you do not speak for recognition. You speak to reach someone who needs that message. You don't speak to impress. You speak so others see themselves in your story. People open up not because you are great, but because you are like them. Because you have walked through what they are struggling with. Because you dared to say what they haven't admitted. You don't need to put on a show to earn respect. You just need to be real enough that people stop and listen. Many new communicators fall into an invisible trap. I must speak eloquently. I must sound impressive. I must prove I deserve to be heard. But the harder you try, the more people hear it as a performance. And performances rarely build real trust. Listeners don't want someone flawless. They want someone human. They need the safety to open up. They want to see someone like themselves, not a distant idol. When you share success, they nod. When you share fear, mistakes, vulnerability, they open their heart. Because they see you as them, and that gives them permission to be real too. Connection begins at vulnerability, not strength. Few admit this. True leaders understand credibility does not come from glory. It comes from the depth of honesty. Want to be heard more? Speak less. Listen to yourself before you speak. Am I about to say this to prove something or to connect? When you shift your motive, you shift the energy of the whole conversation. Instead of listen to me, I know a lot. Say I once was where you are. And here's what I learned. Same message, two different energies. One makes people feel inferior. The other makes them feel supported. People only open up to those who let them feel accompanied. And nothing accompanies better than sharing your own journey with raw authenticity. Sometimes you don't need to impress others. You just need to be remembered. And it is not logic that is remembered, but emotion. A story you tell, imperfect, unpolished, but real, will stay with them long after you leave the room. The moment you stop lecturing and start sharing, that may be when you leave the deepest mark. You don't need to speak like an expert. Just speak like someone who has lived. Someone who once stumbled and dared to share the fall without cover. Someone who once didn't know and is honest about it. Someone who lost the way and now offers a map. When you speak like that, you are no longer lecturing. You are walking side by side. And people always listen more to someone walking with them than to someone looking down from above. Not because you demand it, because you invite self-reflection in them. There is a unique silence that fills a room when someone speaks from the heart. It's the silence of attention. No interruptions, no checking phones, no drifting minds. They listen as if each word is speaking to them. Do you want to be heard like that? Then don't start with, let me tell you who I am. Start with I once afraid, once wrong, once lost, once fallen. And then you got back up. People don't expect you to be perfect. They need you to be real. A leader is not someone without flaws. They are someone who doesn't hide their flaws and turns them into a bridge for connection. You might share a childhood story, a memory that changed your perspective, a moment that revealed the value of listening. And if that story resonates, they will remember you forever. In a noisy world, the one who dares to be real has the advantage. Because authenticity has its own energy. Authenticity makes people trust you. Authenticity makes them listen quietly, not out of fear, but because they are holding an inner conversation sparked by your words. A presentation can be forgotten. A title can be surpassed. But a story told with sincerity stays. Want influence? Don't sermonize. Tell your story. Want respect? Don't prove. Share. The speaker with authority is not the one with the mic, but the one with depth. Depth is not about volume. It's about resonance, about being real. So don't aim to impress. Make people feel that you are genuinely addressing them. Let go of the performance and invite connection. Don't try to tower over others and be heard genuinely. Don't try to outdo them and become relatable. That relatability makes you the most trusted person in the room. Let your story be the guiding force. Let honesty be the first impression they feel when you speak. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to be real. Chapter 9, your closing line is a command, not a promise. How you end a statement reveals a lot about who you are. Some people speak well for most of their talk, but at the end they fumble, and that's it. Something like that. Overall, yeah, all the strength you built earlier drowns in those 3 weak last words. Ending like that is no different from not having said anything at all. An ordinary person speaks to wrap up. A leader speaks to trigger action. For them, a closing line is not a period. It is a command horn. People may forget how long your talk was, but they remember the feeling at the end. They remember a closing line that gave them chills, a line that made them want to stand up and act, a line that made them sit with lingering thoughts after the meeting. This isn't about public speaking skills. It is the art of leading emotions. And the strongest emotion always comes at the end. That is when you stop explaining. You declare. You issue a command to your audience with a voice that doesn't need to be loud, but is unshakable. Like a general who doesn't give a long speech, but when he speaks, everyone knows now is the time to act. You can see this in great leaders. They don't speak for long, but every time they finish, a room stands up, not because they inspired them, but because they turned inspiration into specific action. That is the difference. The inspiring speaker makes you feel wow. The commanding leader makes you act immediately. Ask yourself, what type of closing line are you giving? When you wrap up a talk, a meeting, or a video, imagine your audience standing at your door later. If you don't give them a clear map, they'll go back to their old route. But if you close with a strong roadmap line, they begin a new journey. You don't need fancy words, just simple, clear, decisive, like stand up from your seat and start changing what you've been delaying all week. As soon as you finish this video, call the person you need to apologize to. Before you go to bed tonight, write down one thing you want to be clear about tomorrow. A closing line doesn't need to rally. It just needs to be impossible to ignore. If your audience leaves confused, that's not their fault. It means your close wasn't clear enough. People need to know what to do next. The more specific it leads to action, the more vague it gets forgotten. And sometimes the strongest close isn't your last sentence. It's the moment you stop speaking, a purposeful silence, a steady gaze, a step back to make room for reflection. The closing line can sometimes be a magnetic pause. Because leaders know they don't need to repeat, they just need to suggest. Skilled listeners pause to breathe. Skilled speakers pause to motivate. And the most powerful pause happens at the close. Don't let your ending drift. Don't fear silence when you've said enough. Don't add another word if the last line already lands hard. When you're done, be silent a moment. Let the last line echo in people's minds. Because sometimes change begins from that silence. You finished speaking, then what? You closed, what should the audience do? Without action, words are just wind. Let every ending carry a clear instruction. What next? Where to start? What to avoid? What to remember? A leader never closes with ambiguity. They close with direction. The conclusion isn't a break point. It is the climax. Because if you don't close tightly, people leave empty-handed. You can inspire for 15 minutes, but one flimsy closing line is enough for them to pull out their phone. On the other hand, a firm closing line makes them look up. A closing line with weight makes them take notes. The right closing line makes them walk out and do something right away. Leaders know no one remembers every word you said, but they remember the final thing you asked them to do. Do not neglect the ending. Do not underestimate your final words. Do not finish like you're just chatting casually, because if you don't value your own closing line, don't expect others to either. The closing line doesn't need to be long. It only needs to be clear, deep, forceful. Instead of, "That's enough," right? Say, "And here is what you need to do once you leave this room." The final sentence is where you peak the emotion, where you seal your message, where you give the audience their mission. You can choose to close with a vague statement or choose to close with a decisive command. And the difference lies in whether your listeners will thank you or forget you. Remember, without a clear closing, your message is just a story. Without a clear call to action, inspiration fades over time. But if you seal it with a commanding closing line, your message lives on in your listeners. No one follows you because you spoke well. They follow because you know how to lead. And leadership starts with how you close. Practice rewriting your closing line every time you prepare a talk. Ask yourself, after listening, what will they do? If no action is possible, then it's not a leadership closing line. The best closing lines don't conclude. They ignite the next phase. Your talk ends, then they begin. Because leaders don't need to speak long. They just need to close sharply. One sentence, one direction. One sentence, one shift. One sentence, one action. And in the end, let others remember you not just for what you said, but for how you made them act afterward. You want to be trusted, then close like someone worthy of being followed. You want to lead, then finish like someone who is already leading. Ordinary people close with words. Leaders close with action. Chapter 10. Practice. Don't wait for inspiration. Do not wait for a burst of inspiration before you speak well. Do not wait until you have talent before sharing. An impactful voice does not come from your highest emotion. It comes from silent discipline and repetition. You might admire someone who speaks with power, but if you believe they were born that way, you will never catch up to them. Here's the truth: no one is born inspiring. They practice, they grind, they repeat when nobody's watching. You see them on stage, but you don't see the hours they spend speaking in front of a mirror. You hear confidence in their voice, but you don't hear them delete hundreds of failed takes. You see the poise, but you don't hear how often they stammer, got harsh feedback, and still kept going. Skills don't sprout on their own. They are forged from sweat, from discomfort, from persistent practice, even when it feels awkward. Want your voice to carry weight? You must be willing to train it in silence. Leadership in speech doesn't begin on a stage. It starts when you speak more clearly in your team meeting. When you choose to pause, breathe, then speak rather than mumble, When you train yourself to hold eye contact instead of avoiding it, these small acts are where inner strength is built. Do not wait for a microphone to start learning to speak. Do not wait for applause to learn how to inspire. Do not wait for that one day when I'm suddenly good. That day doesn't exist. There is only the day you begin. Every day speak 1% better. Every week add 1 more minute of deliberate clarity in your tone. Every month eliminate another presentation habit that weakens you. Do it long enough and you won't need to try to sound good. You become someone whom people want to listen to, and no one can take that skill from you. Because it is not innate, it is earned. Do not underestimate the power of silent practice. No one sees you train, but soon everyone will notice you are different. They will ask, how is your voice so grounded? You will smile because they never saw you practice the same passage over and over in front of the mirror. You don't need a special voice. You only need clarity. You don't need theatrical training. You only need presence. Powerful speakers are not powerful because they speak loudly. They are powerful because they train their voice quietly, persistently. You see their composure on stage that comes from speaking unsteadily in small groups and choosing to practice the next day anyway. You hear depth, weight, resonance that comes from many small moments of correction, even when no one noticed. Inner strength is not inherited. It is built from each moment of doubt and each failure woven into the voice you now command. And here's the best part: you can do this too. You don't need to be great today. Just show up each day and commit a little more. Training your voice is not about sounding impressive. It's about speaking truthfully with clarity. No flash, no gimmicks. Just pause where your heartbeat quickens. Hold silence when your words hit emotion. Speak what you deeply believe. That voice with natural force will emerge. Because people don't listen just with their ears. They listen with intuition. And intuition only trusts words backed by lived experience. You are not training to perform. You are training to speak with sincerity and control. You train so your emotion is conveyed but not fragmented. You train so your voice leads without overthinking what's next. And you'll find when you practice enough, your voice will not only reach others, it will touch yourself. You begin to trust every word you say. You begin to stand firmer in communication. You begin to turn words into action. Practice lays the foundation. You might not see immediate results, but one day people will say, your voice just resonates. And you will quietly smile because you know it's the result of hundreds of silent practice sessions. People often ask, where do I start training? Start by listening to yourself. Record your voice, listen back, correct each small flaw. Do not fear hearing a weak voice. Do not avoid feedback on your tone or rhythm. The moment you face yourself, your voice begins to mature. A powerful speaker isn't the one with many fancy words. They are the one who uses the right word at the right time with real emotion. That clarity doesn't magically appear. You cannot speak with conviction while still doubting yourself. And the only way to overcome doubt, practice until you no longer have any doubt. The best voice is one that doesn't deceive. No barricades, no embellishments. There is no need to convince anyone. Because you are speaking from belief you've hardened through quiet practice. You don't need validation to start training. You only need to accept I am on a journey. Every hiccup is not a failure. It's a signal that you're evolving. You cannot build inner strength through short seminars. You build it through honest living, honest speaking, honest practice. The more you practice, the fewer words you need and they carry more weight. The more you practice, the deeper your tone becomes. The more you practice, your eye contact no longer needs theatrics. If you want a voice that carries weight, you cannot wait for that spark of feeling like it. You must train when no one is watching. You must speak even if no one is listening. You must stand up again even after a poorly received speech. And all of that comes from practice. Quiet, persistent, continuous. There is no secret skill. Only those who dare to persist when nobody's cheering. Those who dare to speak deliberately when alone in a quiet room. Those who dare to train eye contact, tone, rhythm day by day. Your voice today is the result of what you trained last month. Your voice in 3 months begins with what you start doing right now. Stop waiting for inspiration. Start training the craft. If you want a voice that carries weight, you must be willing to train it in silence. Your voice is your power. You do not need to be the most eloquent speaker. You just need to be the one brave enough to speak your truth. And that can be trained. No talent required, no flash, no flair. Just your willingness to practice consistently, seriously, without giving up. You do not need to learn how to speak like a public speaker. You only need to speak like someone who is fully present. A voice with weight does not come from technique. It comes from someone who has lived deeply and dares to share it with clear, grounded words. Each day, just a little. Speak with clarity. Pause with intention. Hold steady eye contact. And allow silence to speak when it needs to. That alone can make your voice worth listening to. If you want your voice to carry weight, you must be willing to train it in silence. And if what you just heard made you pause for a moment, tell me, where are you right now in your voice journey? What are you struggling with? Where have you been stuck, or how far have you already come in your training? I do not just want to speak at you. I want to listen to you. Every comment you share is not just a message. It might be the topic for the next video. Let me know what part of this message made you not in agreement or caught you off guard. Write down just one sentence. Write it for you. Write it for me. Write it to stay connected. Because maybe what you just thought in your head is exactly what someone else has been waiting to see in words. You only need to start with one sentence. I will be the one reading it all and walking this journey of transformation right beside you.